How to make her want you more and more and more over time. This is what I'm going to try and describe to you guys today in a more comprehensive way if possible. How to make a girl want you more and more over time, because one thing I hear every now and then is guys that they get into meeting girls and they have trouble building an emotional connection, which is it's very traumatic for a lot of men when they meet a girl that they like and they just cannot build an emotional connection. They struggle with it, and over time the relationship slows down and peters out, even after just a few dates, and they lose the girl that they're trying really hard to build this emotional connection with, and they struggle to do that. So I'm going to try and give you guys as many tips as possible in this video in a more comprehensive way. But before we kick it off, I'm Dave, and this channel is dedicated to giving you no BS novel dating advice from the modern man. My autobiography is in the description, and top link in the description to get some coaching with me. So how to make a girl want you more and more over time. I think this is a very powerful video, very important video to make. To start with, obviously women, they're not entirely visual. Looks do matter, but it is not as important as a man. A man can literally see a girl walking along and go, oh, that's love. She hasn't even opened her mouth, he just looks at her and visually she's so attractive that he's in love with her. He wants her badly. But with a woman, attraction to a man, it takes time. It does take a lot of time. Unless you are a super good looking guy, you can get in there really fast, you might get a one night stand, etc. But to build this emotional connection, it takes time, and you need to do certain things to build that emotional connection. And I think a lot of guys do struggle when they're getting into this. They're trying to look for a girlfriend, and they might get a lot of rejection. They meet a few girls and they lose a few girls because they're not very good at building that emotional connection. And women, it does take time. And so the most important thing to start with is that understand that it takes time. You can't just I guess that's why a lot of guys, they go super direct. They go over and approach a girl and go, hey, I think you're really beautiful, I think you're really hot, I'm in love with you. And they think that literally within minutes, hours, days, a couple weeks, they're going to build this huge emotional connection with the girl by accelerating it with certain things like that. But to understand that it takes time, and that if you cram it all into such a short period of time, you might end up alienating her and losing her. So you have to spread it out over time. Understand that this takes time. She needs exposure to you, you need exposure to her, and that this obviously takes a bit more time that a lot of guys are aware of. So when you're trying to build an emotional connection, even in the short time, there's obviously, we throw in like teasers and negs, and we throw in spikes, and these are the initial ones. But when she knows you a little bit better, you've been seeing her a couple weeks or a little bit more, there needs to be a little bit more. And I think throwing in sort of like innuendo type of things, like oh, wouldn't you like to know? And she just asks something mundane like, what are you doing tomorrow? Wouldn't you like to know? And make it seem like there's something else going on. It also builds a lot of mystery and mystique, which is a lot of people don't think is very powerful, but I think it is. Building mystery over time, it's it's definitely very powerful. And throwing those little innuendos all the time. And if she asks a question, you say, oh wow, you're coming on a bit too strong, I've only known you a couple of weeks, let's pace this out a bit. And you're like, you're making out that she's coming on too strong to you with these little innuendos all the time, but you don't cram them all into one date where you're just throwing them at of like spike, innuendo, you pace yourself. And you understand that this takes time. Part of the story, and the reason why I'm trying to bring it up now, is that there's one girl that I've been seeing for probably 6 months or more, and it's been a real slow burn. And over 6 months, obviously because I'm beneath her mate value, I'm a lot older than her. There was no initial attraction. She just said, "You're a nice guy and I wanted to hang out with you." And so I had to build it over time. And the last week we had something ignited and we went crazy. It was like a huge emotional connection, you know, things like that, in the bedroom, etc. It was really starting to heat up, more than it ever has before, over the period of like 6 months of me continuously just throwing these little innuendos out there and being playful with her. And one very powerful thing is, after you get to know her just a little bit, you can also throw in one very it's a secret little line where you signal that when you first met her and over time you got to know her, and now you see her different than the first time. So if you can say, look, when I first met you, I thought you were a real nerdy librarian type of girl, and now I know who you are in a different way. I see you differently now. And saying this and there's a multitude of different ways. I'm not going to give you a canned line. This is not what I do with this channel. I give you the philosophy. And so if you can try to tell her, look, I understand you better than when we first met, and because I know you now better than when we first met, I see you totally different now. I see you far more clarity now. And if you can somehow get that message across over time, that she just starts to think, oh, well, he knows me, he gets me, he understands who I am, and that builds this powerful emotional connection between you guys by letting her know. So in the beginning, it's really artificial. What you're doing is you're asking a lot of questions. Oh, where are you from? What are you doing for study? What are you doing this? What are you doing that? You know, and then over time it gets deeper. So you throw in the innuendo. You're like, oh, wouldn't you like to know? You're like alluding to her constantly chasing you, and like sexual kind of innuendo all the time. You throw it in over a period of time, and if she hangs around, you have more exposure to her, it starts to really build this emotional connection. And then if you can slowly start to say things like, let her know that you understand her in more depth now than you ever understood her before. Like, I thought you were a real party girl. I thought you used to just, you know, we met in the nightclub. I thought you were the type of girl that was drunk every weekend. But now I know you so much better. I know that you're not like that girl that I used to know. And it sounds corny, actually. Just saying it on camera, it just makes me feel weird saying it to you guys. But if you say that to a girl and you explain to her that you know her in far more depth now than you did when you first met her, that builds that emotional connection. That's game. That is real game. Game is building a strong emotional connection with girls that you are dating. That's the ultimate goal here. Sure, there's the cold approach, there's the fundamentals, there's the very basics of trying to bring girls into your life, asking questions, trying to get to know them. Obviously, you know, we go through the cold approach, logistics, indirect, direct, you know, you go through all these. But when you start dating these girls, building that emotional connection, that's when you really have game, because you bring them in, you get to meet them, and then you're like, I like this girl. And what you want is, when you meet a girl that you like, you want to be able to build such a strong emotional connection so she's hooked on you in a way that she's never been hooked before. And this is to some extent how you do it. You really get to know her, and you let her know that you know her so much better now than you ever have before. And it could be just small little things, you know. She's doing something on her laptop and she's studying something in particular, and you point out that you've never seen this before, and I know now who you are, when before I didn't. and over time, I'm starting to learn more and more about you, and I think that we've got something really strong going on here. This is kind of the philosophy, the overarching philosophy on how to build an emotional connection, because she wants to know that you understand her. Whereas some guys, they feel that this is a little bit too corny. Maybe they feel that they need to just be. They do the opposite. I hear a lot of guys just pushing that. Oh no, I'm a player. I got all these girls. I'm awesome. And saying that to the girl when and letting, like, doing these pre-selection stories to a girl while they're actually dating the girl, which goes against what you really should be doing, because the ultimate goal here is for you to build an emotional connection with her and have a solid connection, something that some jacked pretty boy with $10 billion in the bank and a Ferrari cannot break up. You know what I'm trying to say here? You want to build it so solid that if it's 2 a.m. in the morning and she's had 20 shots of Jägermeister and one of her friends have slipped her some MDMA, and some tall, handsome guy comes along and he flashes his keys in the Maserati or whatever, and she still remembers you. Because your emotional connection is so damn strong. And this is one of the overarching philosophies of that, is letting her know over time that the innuendo, obviously the questions to get to know her, and then you get to the next level where you're building it with these innuendos all the time. And then when you start letting her know that you understand her in a depth that no one else ever has, that's when you guys become so rock solid. And she learns to trust you, and she wouldn't want to risk your relationship for anything. And that's my tip for today, because I think a lot of guys out there, they can bring girls in and they can get one night stands, but the girls go. And they're constantly butting their head against the wall. They're like, why did she go? I just met her and I thought it was going well, and she's just disappeared on me. Maybe I'm not good in bed. Well, no, it's not really that you weren't good in bed. It's more that you didn't build that emotional connection, and you're struggling to do so because there's ego problems. You know, some men have that ego and they're not aware of it. I think just identifying that you've got this ego with that, and it's like I'm throwing these pre-selection stories out there and I'm trying to act like I'm higher status than her, and because I'm so high status, she's naturally going to want to keep me, right? Well, no, it's not knowing that you're the most awesome man in the world that builds the emotional connection. It's actually you understanding her and letting her know. That builds the bond. It's you and her versus the world. And it can only be you and her versus the world if you guys know each other really well. And that's one of the tips that I want to throw out for you guys today. I think it's a very valuable tip for guys trying to hold on to a girl that they've caught feelings for. This is something that I recommend that you guys do. So if you like this video, click the subscribe button, click the bell icon, and if you like what I'm doing here, there's a Telegram group you can join up right now. I got a free consultation call. I pay for that consultation call for you guys to have a chat with me, and I'm happy to chat with you when you join up. My autobiography, and also if you want some coaching with me, top link in the description. And for the rest of you guys out there, I'll see you in the next video.